There are people who genuinely don't care about sports, not pretending, just fundamentally uninterested. You'll find them quiet during Super Bowl conversations, nodding politely when coworkers discuss last night's game. They aren't trying to be different, they simply don't feel what everyone else feels. But even they wonder if something's wrong with them. Every sports conversation feels like a foreign language. Psychologists describe this through tribal bonding and shared meaning systems. Sports require investment in arbitrary outcomes. For some, that suspension of disbelief happens automatically. For others, it never clicks. Researchers find sports fandom activates reward centers tied to belonging. Their brain simply doesn't convert athletic competition into emotional investment. They can understand sports intellectually, but feel nothing emotionally. They appreciate the athleticism, respect the dedication, acknowledge the strategy, and still feel hollow when asked who they're rooting for. They want to care because caring would make life easier, but forcing interest feels like lying. If you've ever faked enthusiasm during playoffs just to fit in, you know this exhaustion. We live in a culture where sports fandom is social currency. Researchers studying social norms find sports knowledge signals belonging. Those who don't follow get quietly labeled boring or snobby. But what if not everyone's brain is wired for vicarious competition? What if their disinterest isn't a deficit, but a difference? They've discovered they speak different languages fluently. This pattern often begins in childhood. Maybe they were picked last in gym class, where sports meant humiliation rather than fun. Or they grew up where books or art filled the space others gave to games. Over time, lack of exposure became lack of attachment. The neural pathways that create sports passion never developed. They arrived at adulthood without the framework. People who don't obsess over sports often possess depth elsewhere. Their attention isn't divided across game schedules and player statistics. Research shows focus is finite. They've invested their engagement capacity differently. Maybe they discuss literature, politics, science with the same passion others bring to basketball. That's not superiority, that's specialization. The gift exists only when it's genuine disinterest. It begins when not caring becomes identity, when their disinterest becomes performance. Someone mentions a game, they feel excluded, they respond with condescension, "I don't really follow that stuff." Soon they're proudly, loudly uninterested, building identity around what they're not. That's when healthy difference becomes rigid defense, when the absence becomes the presence, controlling their self-definition completely. In ancient tribes, collective focus on competition served survival. Modern sports tap those same instincts. The crowd is the tribe, the jersey is war paint. But not everyone carried warrior roles ancestrally. Some were healers, storytellers, makers. Their modern descendants still exist, not drawn to vicarious competition because their wiring optimized for different engagement forms. The path forward isn't forcing themselves to care. It's understanding whether their disinterest is peaceful or defensive. If it's genuine indifference, honor it fully. But if there's judgment attached, feeling superior to sports fans, that's worth examining. The goal isn't developing sports passion, it's developing compassion for different forms of engagement while remaining authentic to your own interests. Why do some feel nothing when others feel everything? Because emotional investment requires personal stakes they can't locate. When teams win, fans feel genuine happiness. Their brain processes it as personal victory. But that attachment requires a cognitive leap. Strangers become extensions of self. For them, that leap never happens. Athletes remain strangers. Outcomes remain irrelevant. They find stakes elsewhere. People who don't obsess over games often bring different engagement to friendship. They're not tracking stats or replaying highlights. They're asking about your actual life. When everyone's watching the game, they're available for conversations nobody else has time for. Their attention isn't split between you and the score. It's fully present. They've discovered depth comes from focus. People who don't obsess over sports aren't missing anything essential. They're experiencing humanity through a different lens. They can navigate sports culture without pretending to care or judging those who do. The path forward isn't developing passion for games, it's developing peace with authentic interests. When they stop explaining their disinterest, they simply exist as themselves, different, engaged elsewhere, connected differently.